I love what you guys are doing. Like I said, I have one of my members is a burn instructor, Patty Pickrell.
Shout out Patty, let's go.
She's
Centerville.
amazing, and she loves working with you guys. And so I remember I gave you guys a shout just in a video, and then y'all reached out, and I was really excited just because I think the more connections we can make, the more we can all build each other up, the better. And I think you guys are doing a great job. I learned a lot with Gary. There are two major things that I talk about. Really what it boils down to is the dose makes the poison.
Okay.
But all of a sudden you have someone telling you that XYZ in your drink is poisoning you. I didn't know that. I need to watch that. It's going to get more views. So social media drives this fear, and it makes it seem way more complex than it actually is. You changed her life in so many ways with the simplest strategy. I'm very happy to hear that. That's an incredible strategy. One of the biggest issues in the fitness community is that
Jordan, if you are here in Charlotte, I'm so thankful that you made the time to come here and talk to us and talk to me. I told you offline, I've been a fan for a long time, that my 2012, 13, 14, 15 routine was morning Gary V and morning Tony Robbins. And, when you started training Gary V, that also made me a fan of you. And we've been following you pretty much ever since. Our VP of marketing, Trish Pena, is like a diehard fan. She knows literally everything about you. I was like, oh, Jordan's from Texas, right? She's like, yeah. And then this is when he moved from New York, and this is when he moved to Texas, and this is what happened. And I was like, all right, Trish, do you want to interview Jordan? Because you seem to know everything about him already. But I'm just really thankful that you're here because you are somebody in the industry that is, I think, someone we want to align ourselves to. We talk about how combative and kind of religious this industry is in terms of what to do and what not to do, and demonizing this routine or this company or that company. It's like, meanwhile, there's people sitting on their couch who are mildly depressed to not fully depressed, watching us bicker back and forth of each other to see who's like ego's bigger. And at the end of the day, we just want to help people. And that's what I get from you. Welcome to Burn Studios. You just want to help people, and Burn Nation is captive and they're listening. I'm so excited for this interview. And I'll just start it off by welcoming you and appreciating you for being here.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. Like I said before we started recording, I love what you guys are doing. It's discouraging when we see so much of the fitness industry just bickering and battling back and forth. And as Gary has said many times, there are two ways to build the biggest building. Number one, you could just build the biggest building, or number two, you could tear all the other buildings down. And I see a lot of people in the fitness industry just trying to tear other buildings down rather than trying to build everybody else up. And I think you guys are doing a great job. Like I said, I have one of my members is a burn instructor, Patty Pickrell.
Shout out Patty, let's go.
She's
Centerville.
amazing, and she loves working with you guys. And so I remember I gave you guys a shout just in a video, and then y'all reached out, and I was really excited just because I think the more connections we can make, the more we can all build each other up, the better. And I think you guys are doing a great job.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chelsea. Do we have the video? Let's go ahead and you find that, and I want to play it because I was, Jordan. There's not many times where I like get excited because I expect to have success in this organization. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's...
No, I get it.
It's like you rehearse it mentally so much that when it actually happens, you're like, okay, that was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one. It's hard for me to stop and smell the roses. But when you said Burn Boot Camp, I was like, Jordan, did you guys see that? Saya just said Burn Boot Camp. He said it. And so it was a really cool moment for me. And so, which also reminded me how inspired I am still by trainers in our industry. I'm inspired by, I think there's so much room for fitness. There's so much room for influencers, trainers, celebrity to motivate people to do better for themselves. And so what bothers you specifically about the kind of clash between people, and how have you tried to like take your group and your influence and your people and steer them away from that and kind of be all positive all the time?
I mean, I think one of the biggest issues in the fitness community is that people will try and tear down any method that they aren't doing. So if it's not a method that I'm doing, then it must be bad or worthless, or it's just not worth your time. You shouldn't be doing it, and it becomes something that they demonize. Whereas realistically, if we're looking at data and health outcomes and everything, like we should be doing a little bit of everything. We should be getting some cardio and we should be getting strength and we should be getting mobility and like we should be doing all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And none of it is bad. And I think above all, we need to find something that we enjoy, something we can do for the long term. And so the more that the more I've grown in the industry and the more I try and encourage people, it's like just find something that you can really enjoy and that you can stick to. It doesn't mean you're always going to love doing it. I think it's an important component because a lot of people always just say like, just do what you love, do what you love. And to be fair, there are some people who will never love exercise, but maybe it's finding the thing that you hate the least.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that's built around a community, which you guys do one of arguably the best in the industry. You have an incredible community of people in the gym and outside the gym as well who love and support each other. It's like if someone hates working out, but they have an amazing community around them, you've won.
Yeah, and what we were talking offline about just strength training back 2012, 2013, I think 2011 when you really launched your career. Is that correct?
My online business.
Your online business.
I started coaching in like 2005, but I launched my online business in 2011.
And at that time, strength training wasn't. I mean, it was there for those who understood intrinsically health and fitness, but like the general pop didn't know.
No.
Right? It was all about like the 1990s magazine journalists telling you that you need.
There's a lot of P90X.
P90X.
P90X was a lot of it, was like the main home one then. But like it's crazy to me to go into just a typical gym now versus going to a typical gym then. Like when you went to like a standard, I don't know, Gold's Gym, Life Fitness, whatever it is, watching people then, most people were not strength training. But you go into a typical gym now, you have everyday average people squatting, deadlifting, doing great push-ups, using good technique with very high quality movements. It's the culture has changed, I think, largely because of social media.
And you've seen, I don't know if you've seen, this is a question. I've certainly seen, and I can give an example, and I'd love to hear anything that you've seen in terms of kind of taking that strength training trend and overcorrecting for it, right? Because you said you already discussed this. We need conditioning and we need strength training. You need a little bit of everything, and there's no, absolutism like to be like all strength or let's just say all conditioning, because that's often a battle. And then you hear like, don't do conditioning because you're going to get chronic release of cortisol. Let's say that's like a big one that's out there right now, and I'm like. But acute releases of cortisol are like necessary for like a quality of life. So like, what are your thoughts on that whole dynamic versus strength versus conditioning, what we know versus what the market reacts to, and kind of clear through the clutter for us. Give us your philosophy on strength and conditioning.
That's a great example, the cortisol one. I mean, this is the issue with people who, number one, are not highly educated in something. They learn a very little bit about one aspect of the human body. So cortisol, for example, and they hear, okay, it's the stress hormone and it's going to be bad if you have too much of it. It's like, well, too much of anything is bad, number one. But if you don't have cortisol, you die. Mm-hmm. Cortisol is essential for life. So you need it. And there's actually very positive benefits of having it. And when people just hear about this one system within the body or one mechanism within the body, it's easy to demonize it. Like same thing with insulin. Mm-hmm. They'll demonize insulin. It's like, again, without insulin, you die. If you don't make insulin or you can't produce it, then you have to inject it but you need it. So when people demonize one hormone or one mechanism within the body, it immediately tells me they have no idea what they're talking about. But when it comes to conditioning, it's and again, conditioning can be a wide range. It could be very low intensity, longer duration, something as simple as walking, all the way up to something much more higher intensity, very near maximal heart rate. And I think they're all beneficial. It shouldn't be controversial to say that having being at least proficient in all of these aspects, whether it's maximal strength, whether it's strength endurance, whether it's conditioning, low intensity, higher intensity, whether it's mobility, I think that's a big one that a lot of people are lacking. And mobility gets a lot of flack nowadays. But I mean, even the way I'm sitting right now with my leg crossed, it's like I know a lot of people just can't do that without being in severe pain or ripping their knee. It's or people like when I'm on an airplane to come here, seeing people they can't lift their shoulders up over their head to get their bag in the overhead storage compartment. All of this stuff is important, and I don't think demonizing any one of them is a good idea. I think a well-rounded program incorporates all of it, and it's not that difficult to do. It's just you've got to make the time to learn and make sure it's programmed.
And I want to go deeper into your philosophy, and like there's an element of today's conversation that I want to be prescriptive toward the end. But I think before we do that, let's just kind of take a walk down memory lane for a moment. I'm sure you've told your story a handful of times. Hopefully I can ask you some questions along the way that'll pull some stuff out that I'm really curious about. But how did Jordan get here today on the Burn Bootcamp podcast? Maybe you can stop at when you fell in love with fitness, where you grew up, where you fell in love with fitness, how you and Gary met, and how that really impacted your career. Maybe what's your relationship now, what you're doing now, and how that's evolved. And then we can get into like what prescriptions do you have? What philosophies do you have that you really think people should listen up for?
Yeah, so I come from a very unathletic family. So I'm come from a very short Jewish family. When I was 8 years old, my mom walked in the living room. I was lying on the couch, and she was like, "I'm going to put you and your brother in wrestling because we're short Jewish kids." She was like, "You're going to get picked on in school."
This is in New York?
This is actually in Massachusetts.
You grew up in Massachusetts?
Grew up in Massachusetts,
Okay.
yeah. So, and I didn't know what wrestling was. I just knew like The Rock on WWE and stuff. And so I remember I looked at her and I was like, "You want me to hit someone with a chair?" And she was like, "No, you idiot, like Olympic style wrestling," which I didn't know what it was, but I fell in love with it. And I was terrible in school. I was in special education growing up. The school system didn't work well for me. And so I fell in love with wrestling. I started at 8. By the time I got to a freshman in high school, I beat a junior out for the varsity spot. And at 14 years old on varsity, you're mainly going up against like 17, 18-year-olds. So there's a huge strength differential. And so I was like, I need to get stronger. I don't know how. So I wrote an email to a gym a couple towns over from me in Newton, Massachusetts. And I was like, "Hey, I'll take the trash out. I'll clean the floors. Like, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I just want to learn from you." And I was so blessed because these trainers, not only did they take me under their wing, but they were incredibly science-based. They were very, very deep in the research and high-quality trainers. And so I started working there when I was 14 years old, and I immediately fell in love with it. And my first client that I got there after training there for a little while, it was a 68-year-old man named Fred. And like when I'm at this point, I'm like 15, 16. And, when you're a 15, 16-year-old kid, my main goal was to get better at wrestling and look good naked. That was it. That's all I thought about. And I thought everyone would have the same goals as me.
I think a lot of our members can resonate with that. I've heard that so many times out there in Burn Nation.
Yeah.
And I laugh every time because they're telling me that. And it's like, all right, I like your goal, but the visual that just popped into my head troublesome to me.
Well, so then I asked Fred, I was like, "What are your goals?" And he just wanted to be able to pick his grandson up without hurting his shoulders. And in that moment, that's when I knew I was going to love coaching, because from that point I was like, "Oh, I care more about helping Fred reach his goals than I do about reaching my goals." And that's a big difference that I see in coaches nowadays. A lot of people say they want to be a coach because they like being in the gym. It's very different to coach people versus just love working out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I got involved in coaching. It was really the only job I've ever had. After high school, I lived in Israel for a year. I coached people in Israel for a year.
What took you over there?
So again, I was terrible in school. I was not good in I was not good in school, and I was in special education. I didn't really even want to go to college. So I decided to take a year off and just travel. And so I had been to Israel once before with my synagogue, and I fell in love with it. And so I just went there for a year. I volunteered with Holocaust survivors, and
Cool.
and it was a really wonderful experience.
That sounds wonderful.
And I started these little boot camps on the beach in Tel Aviv, and people would come, and I would just train them for
What
free.
year is this?
This is 2009, 2010.
You're doing boot camps on the beach
Yes,
in Tel Aviv.
yes,
Okay,
exactly.
Okay.
And my mom made me promise that I would come back, so I came back and I went to school, and I initially went to University of Delaware for exercise science, but I switched out of exercise science pretty quickly because I had already been coaching for about 5 years at that time, and I realized that you could have the perfect workout program, you could have the perfect nutrition plan, but if someone's not following it, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went into exercise science, a lot of the professors, they had never actually coached anybody. They had just learned from a textbook and then were reiterating what they had learned from a textbook. And I wanted to actually figure out how can I help people, because most people know they should be working out. They know they should be eating better. You have 100 people, you show them an apple and a donut, 100 people are going to tell you the apple's the more nutritious choice. But if they all want to lose weight and you say like, hey, you can choose whichever one you want, they're not all going to choose the apple. I was like, okay, why? Why are people making the decisions they're making? Even now, everyone knows smoking cigarettes is going to give you cancer. It literally says on the box with the skull and crossbones. But right now, someone's going to buy their first box of cigarettes, even though they're not addicted yet. And so I was thinking it's not just a knowledge gap. There's a behavioral gap. There's something going on. So I switched to behavioral health psychology, which was one of the better decisions for my education.
And where'd you go to school?
University of Delaware.
Delaware. Okay.
And so then when I was in school, I was competitively powerlifting. I started the powerlifting team at University of Delaware with a couple close friends. And then I started my website. And basically, I had a handful of coaches that I really looked up to that had websites. I was like, great, I'll just start writing articles and posting my training videos on YouTube. And an online business wasn't in my mind. It didn't really exist at that point. I was like, one day I'll open a gym and that'll be that. But relatively quickly, people started to find my website and people started to ask me to coach them online, which was crazy to me. So by the time I graduated college, I had an online fitness business. And so I actually ended up moving back to Israel. And it was when I was in Israel that Gary Vaynerchuk's team found my content and they were like, hey, we'd like you to coach Gary. And I thought it was a joke. I was like, there's no way this guy's team is reaching out to me.
They just email you or slide into the DM
Yeah,
or what?
yeah. You just got an email. They were like, would you like to
And
coach
you guys
Gary?
had no relationship
None.
before that?
I mean, I had all of his books and I loved all of his stuff, but I had never spoken with him. I thought it was a joke.
You're about to get catfished?
Yeah, so I get on the phone and basically his current coach, who's one of my best friends, Mike Vacanti, he was like, fly out to New York, coach him for an hour, and then we'll see. And so I flew to New York from Tel Aviv. I didn't even tell anybody I was leaving. Flew to New York, coached him for an hour, flew back all within 36 hours. And then 6 weeks later, I get a text message from a number I don't know that says, "Are you ready?" And I didn't know who this number was. It was 6 weeks after it happened. I just assumed I didn't get the job. So I reply, and you're going to beep it out, but I replied, I said, "Who the is this?" Yeah. And and I get a text message, a picture of Gary shirtless and flexing, and that's how I found out I got the job to coach Gary Vaynerchuk. And so I moved to New York. I coached him 7 days a week for 3 years straight, and then that was it. That was from June 1st, 2016 to June 1st, 2019. And then my now wife, we had started dating around that time, and then we moved to Dallas, Texas. So now we're in Dallas, Texas. We've got 2 girls. God willing, we have another one on the way.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that's it. That's the shortest version I can make of it.
It's incredibly fascinating, because you had this opportunity that came to you, but you unknowingly had been preparing for it since you were 14 years old.
Yes.
Because you said yes to being mentored and being around and getting the rub from those guys at the gym. And who, fast forward, 10 years later? 15 years later, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. It's just, we never know that, when we follow our passions and we actually wake up every day excited about what we do, what type of goodwill can be put into the world, and then what type of opportunity comes. And so when you got that opportunity, that make you think differently. I'm sure the mindset for you going into that 3-year period was, did you go into it saying like, okay, I'm going to shift my career. This is like, I'm going to go into this route in which I'm going to help these individuals maximize their gifts they can give to the world by helping them generate the energy, maximize that human potential, and I'm going to do that for individuals? Or were you like, okay, this is an assignment. I'm going to go out and we're going to get Gary to where he needs to go, and then I'm going to, go back to my boot camps or go back to my career. Like, what was your mindset at the time in terms of where this was going to take you, or were you just riding the waves?
I'm not really a think that far ahead kind of. I'm very much just go with the flow. So I went into it. Number one, I was consider myself very blessed that I got the job. I didn't grow up with money. It was a big struggle growing up, and I remember I called my mom after I got the job, and I was just like, I think we're going to be good, which was just a great call to be able to make. And I went into it just with the goal of I want to help Gary with whatever he needs. And so it was actually, I think the main reason I got the job is because he's on planes all the time. So again, I was with him 7 days a week, 3 years straight, and we spent more time in airplanes and hotels than we did in New York City. If he was in Hong Kong, I was in Hong Kong with him. If he was in Germany, I was in Germany. If we were in LA, I was in LA with him. It was 7 days a week, no weekend, no breaks, no nothing. And he had real mobility issues. He had chronic pain in his back, chronic pain in his hip, chronic pain in his neck. In fact, his assistant would only book him on one side of the airplane because he couldn't tilt his neck one way because he was just so stiff.
Mm-hmm.
And during the training session, I incorporated some mobility work, and I think that is what got him to be like, I really want to work with this guy, because I was incorporating that within the strength and within the conditioning. And so I wanted to help him with whatever he needed. And so it was like the main thing he said to me on day one, he was like, if you can fix my hip pain, then if we do nothing else, if you just fix my hip pain, it'll be worth it. And within 3 months, his hips were feeling better. We were able to move on to the next thing. So I just wanted to help him. And it wasn't like I want to make Gary is the best in the world at what he does. I knew, like, realistically, nothing I could do would make him even better at doing what he does. I just wanted to make him feel better.
Yeah.
That was it. So that was my goal.
I love that. And it seems like, as you talk about your upbringing, you mentioned your mom a handful of times. She's like, hey, you're going to Tel Aviv, you make sure you come back.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, but you don't really necessarily right away, because you go right to New York.
Yes.
But she's also supportive of that decision, it sounds like.
She's the most supportive. I thank God for her every day. And I made it a relatively short story, but I went to Columbus, Ohio, trained at the best powerlifting gym in the world, Westside Barbell, when I was a kid, and she went with me, and she every step of the way, she was facing criticism from other parents being like, what are you letting your kid doing, going all over the world? Like, he's not going to get the traditional educational route that you have. And every step of the way, she was like, I'm going to let him do what I think is best for him. And she didn't care what other parents were saying. She's amazing.
And it sounds like you and Gary might have had some common ground there, because the same type of, how would you say, trouble learning deficiencies in school. You guys kind of both had that, and both had really supportive moms that were like, go do your thing. It must have felt like, maybe you could describe that a little bit. What was the feeling like when you're able to call your mom, this person that's been your biggest supporter since day one, despite having learning disabilities, or I'm not sure if you want to call it that, but having trouble learning, you call her, you're like, Mom, we're good.
Yeah.
Describe that.
It was amazing. And to be fair, I was in Tel Aviv when I called her, and she was in Massachusetts, and she didn't know who Gary was. So I was like, I got this amazing job coaching Gary Vaynerchuk, and she was like, oh, that's sweet. Like, she didn't know. And so I was like, Mom, imagine Oprah Winfrey just hired me as her personal trainer. And she was like, oh my God, like, she freaked out. And so then she got it.
Yeah.
So it was a blessing, man. And and now it's just great. She gets to spend a lot of time with her granddaughters, and it's been an incredible journey.
Well, I just want to ask just a couple more Gary V questions before we move on, obviously, because I'm a huge fan of both of you guys, and really just curious, intrinsically motivated to ask. What did you learn? I'm sure there's a lot, right? But what are the fundamental takeaways? As you're flying 7 days a week and you're getting the rub, you got to download, pretty much everything. What are you looking back? You're like, oh, I'm so glad that I learned this thing, because as much as I helped Gary's hip pain and his neck pain and him get back to like his fighting mentality or whatever, however you want to call it, you also learned the best form of a relationship is when two people can grow.
Mm-hmm.
And so what was that like for you guys? How did you both grow together? And then maybe you can put the final chapter on it by talking about kind of where you're at now. And I'm sure you guys are still in communication and hang out and best friends and all that good stuff.
He's still like a father figure to me. We
Awesome.
talk pretty frequently. Mike is actually coaching him again now. I learned a lot with Gary. There are two major things that I talk about. The first one is it's the whole concept of seeing is believing. I don't think the vast majority of people understand how hard this man actually works. It is absolutely shocking to see firsthand. I got access to his calendar, and I spent more time with him than his family in many cases. This guy is working nonstop from like 5 or 6 a.m. until 11, 12, 1 every single day. It was insane. Everything is booked out months and months and months in advance. it was helpful for me, especially at that time in my life, because I realized if I ever wanted to do better, I just had to work harder. That's literally it. There was no hack. There's no like special, whether it's a hashtag or strategy. It was just, bro, work harder. You have the time. And keep in mind, I had already built a pretty successful online coaching business at that time. And I thought, I would call myself an entrepreneur, and I don't do that anymore. I'm just a personal trainer. Because Gary's like the real quintessence of an entrepreneur. I just realized, I could just work harder and good things will happen. So there was that. And almost on the flip side of it, the other aspect is I realized I didn't want the life that he has.
Oh, that's interesting. Because like everybody outside looking in might say that's kind of a crazy thing to say.
Yeah. And I think this is what social media will do is social media really just shows you the things that often are impressive to you, or that whether it's money, whether it's flying on private jets, people are like, oh, I really like to be able to do that. But they don't see what it takes to get to that level. And I think one of the best things about Gary is that he says, you have to figure out what makes you happy, not what makes me happy, not make someone else happy, what makes you happy. And I've known my whole life I wanted to be a father. I just want to be a father. And one of the main reasons I wanted to have an online business was because I want to be able to go to my parent-teacher conferences for my daughters. Right now, I'm a volunteer security guard at their school. So, like, I'm there several days a week and they're young.
That's a great idea.
Like,
to spend more time with your kids and also for them to, like, look at you like you're a bad dude. Dad's our security guard at school.
They're young, so they like it right now. I'm sure it won't be long before they're embarrassed.
Go away. Dude, go away.
But, like, the fact that I can spend several days a week at my kids' school and just be walking around and see them in the hallways, and that, like, I can take a day off anytime I want, and I could just take them to lunch, or I can go to the park or whatever, or take her to gymnastics. It's for me, I love what I do and I love helping people, but it can never come at the expense of my family. Mm-hmm. And for Gary, like, Gary is so good at what he does, and like his ultimate passion is his work. And I realized I really don't want that. And I'm not willing to work that hard to get to his level of success on that front. I also think that as a society, we often attribute way too much. Like, if we look at success and we hear success, often the term that we hear immediately is like, well, look at all these CEOs. And I'm always like, well, why is a CEO the marker of success? Like, why is that the success marker? I think there are many other ways that we could look at success outside of simply financial. Mm-hmm. And
yeah, how do you define it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's being able to do what you want when you want, without guilt and without shame, and having the freedom to do that. That for me is what is success. And for me,
do you include a responsibility as a part of that definition? Well, the freedom and then the responsibility of having the freedom, is that a part of the dynamic?
I think responsibility and personal responsibility is incredibly important, but I don't necessarily include that within success, because I think everyone, it's regardless of where you are, you have a responsibility no matter what. So I don't include that as a marker of success. I think that everyone, regardless of whether or not you've achieved what you define as success, you have responsibility to do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, have you gotten to the point in which you have the freedom to then do that? And then with that freedom, obviously, I think comes more responsibility as well. But I think everybody, regardless of where you are, has responsibility to do whatever it is you need to do. So yeah, I mean, learning that I didn't want that life was a really important lesson, and one that Gary is incredibly supportive of. And I think he's really proud that I was able to make that distinction. Rather than chasing his goals, I was able to say, no, that's not what I want. And so I can chase what I want.
Well, that must fill his cup up, because somebody that, plants their flag in the ground and says happiness is your own personal definition of it. Stop looking at, and then the person that's actually closest to him, actually learns that. I mean, to me, that just signals authenticity out of the message that he
100%,
right. And that and that you're in it with him, and then you still get the same. You get the same takeaway as he wants somebody who's never even met him to take away, which is an incredibly interesting and also reaffirming dynamic, because I've been a huge Gary Vee fan for a long time, will continue to be. And hearing that, it's just like, yep, okay, That makes sense.
Yeah,
That
he's a
checks
great
out.
man. He's a great man,
Cool.
and I don't think anyone's been more happy and joyful for my success and my own growth than him, in which he has played a tremendous part in.
So I got a wish list for my board of advisors, and I've got like 100 names on it.
Yeah,
And he's on there. So if
I can connect you.
all right, you gotta throw that out there and see if it's Burn Boot Camp is. I mean, anybody that's been around me for a long time and then it's been in this organization knows that. I mean, we've got a few million people on social media for all of our platforms, and without Gary just giving, the access to that type of information wasn't there.
Yeah,
And I come from a background in which I had no mentors at all. I was a clean slate. I grew up on welfare, and my dad in and out of jail and prison. My mom abandoned the family. It was chaotic, man. This is not about me today. This is about you. But like when I was looking for answers, like I don't even think you or I realize the impact that you're having on someone maybe you do. It's hard for me to correlate the impact I'm having on a 22-year-old kid's life today.
yeah.
This one word that I said on this one podcast, this one time, is the thing that he listened to, and then it shaped his life.
Yeah.
It's really incredibly powerful.
It's extraordinary. It's one of the greatest blessings of our time that is so new. Like it's very new that we have the ability to put our words out there and have them impact people all over the world. And no, I can't comprehend it either. It's every time someone reaches out and says thank you, or you said X, Y, and Z, it's equally mind blowing every single time.
So I want to go into the current state of the industry with you. You're somebody who would make videos every day, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always on my feet somewhere, and it's always really good stuff. By the way,
Thank you.
I wouldn't blow smoke if like there was videos. I'm like, probably wouldn't even bring it up at all. I just probably. But your videos are great, and we love them here. The one did you find the one Jordan talked about burn? Okay, play that one real quick, just because obviously, Jordan, that's my favorite. That's my favorite one. Obviously, I'm biased. Just dude.
What in the human fleshlight did I just watch? Oh man, just go on a walk, lift some weights, do some cardio. I mean, just go to a fitness class, rock climb, go on a hike, take Pilates or Zumba or burn boot camp, strength train, get stronger, build muscle. Just don't waste your time and money on this. And by the way, if you don't know where to begin, I have a free beginner's guide to strength training. It is 100% free. I originally made it for people who are using GLP-1s because it's so important for them to strength train, but it's important for everybody to strength train. And GLP-1 or not, strength training looks exactly the same. So if you don't know where to begin and you want a free beginner's guide to strength training with free workouts, free video tutorials, free nutrition guidance, comment the word guide and I'll send it over right now.
All right, we'll put that at. Can we get that link?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
put it for people.
Sure.
All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna do that, Chelsea. All right, that way everyone listening to the podcast can get Jordan's free resource there, and be able to. Do you have a newsletter that comes off of that? Okay,
yeah, of
all right,
course.
which you'll download that and get on his newsletter and be able to connect with him. But thanks for the shout out,
Dude, of course.
that was
man.
my favorite one. Although we got to get it. Maybe Zumba isn't the appropriate company right before. Maybe like a CrossFit, or we're gonna do that like right before.
Dude, I love Zumba.
Do you like Zumba?
Dude, I love Zumba.
I have never done a Zumba.
You should.
I will.
You should. I made
If I
a
come
YouTube
to
video.
Texas, we'll do one together.
There's actually, it's funny. So I've taken one Zumba class and I did it for a YouTube video. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go try it. It was such a great community. It was so fun. They were having a blast. And dude, my heart rate got jacked up. It was fun, man. Zumba's good.
All right, I got it. Those hips don't lie, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I'll come down to Texas sometime, we'll get some work in. We'll put some work in somewhere. Maybe not Zumba. Maybe we'll just do one of your workouts. And wake up the next day and do one of my.
I love
workouts.
that.
We'll do it.
I'm
we'll do
in.
a workout swap. The current state of the industry is really an interesting thing to me. Always thought about strength training, hypertrophy, human movement patterns, fundamental exercises, PRs in those fundamental exercises as like your main focus, leaving reps in reserve for kind of some other thing. this has always been my mentality since I was 16, bigger, faster, stronger, high school programs, falling in love pretty much the same way with you did, just a different sport. Mine was baseball, yours was wrestling.
What position were you?
I was a pitcher.
Okay.
All things in high school, but ended up being a professional pitcher for a few
Amazing.
years. Yeah, with the Giants organization.
Oh, amazing.
I got released after a cup of tea in like high A baseball. And then, it was like 3 seasons.
Got it.
But,
okay.
And I downplay that a little bit because I wanted to be like the Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah,
and
of course.
go to the league, but I didn't achieve my goal. But nonetheless, a great experience. But all through then college, my CSCS, our college weight room was at Central Michigan was like strength training heaven. We've probably learned since then to be a little bit more functional than to just to be like meathead sniffing salt and like, deadlifting 700 pounds. So, and then going into the Giants organization, I had back-to-back these experiences in which strength training at a world-class level, the same way you were taught by the gentleman at
Westside Barbell.
They taught me the same thing, what strength training is. And so for me, it was always, this is obvious what to do if you're in, this has always been obvious. This is a timeless thing. It's not like this popped up yesterday and now we're doing it, right? Athletes have been doing this since like the modern era of strength and conditioning, and it keeps getting better and better and better and better. And especially in baseball, we're now looking at spin rate and all types of stuff, and the training gets more specific. But my question for you is, I think you would agree. The first part is I think you would agree to that the strength training, universal strength training principles, hypertrophy, is timeless.
Yes.
And now we're in this environment in which companies and organizations are either getting on this strength training bandwagon or they're getting on this cardio bandwagon, let's say, and like tripling down on this. Why is that confusing people? Why is that bad? Why is that leading to less results for the people we care about? You and I are both about outcomes.
Yep.
We don't really want to get into the argument.
Correct.
We want to be on this side of it and saying what we really care about is you as a member. What should they be listening to when in the today's macro narrative, whether it be, we've talked about cortisol, what else comes to your mind? What should they be listening to? What shouldn't they be listening to? And how do we make the discernment as we're someone on the couch who is like never worked out a day in their life and they're mildly depressed, Googling, what do I do? And they're coming up with all the things that, are on the Mel Robbins podcast or the Diary of a CEO podcast. And I love those podcasts, and it's giving us exposure to information, but also I can see somebody who has a vulnerable mind is like the most confused human on the planet, which leads to just doing nothing.
Yeah. So we can look at those podcasts for a second, and like, two things can be true at the same time. On one hand, I respect those podcasts from their business savvy, from like their conversational tactics, from like what they do as business owners and on social media. But you have to remember the biggesspodcasts in the world are often the biggest podcasts because they get the most controversial and often essentially not just controversial, but also topics that completely disagree and go against one another. So you'll see like back-to-back podcast guests that will completely disagree in the most heinous ways, that like it doesn't make sense that you'd have this person back-to-back. So I can respect them from what they've been able to accomplish, but also say like, if those are the main ones that you're listening to, especially for like fitness and health, you're going to be getting very controversial, very mixed ideas of what is beneficial. And their main goal isn't to help you as like your main goal is, or as my main goal is. Their main goal is to grow their viewership, is to get more downloads. That's their main goal. And if they help people, great, but it doesn't take much looking on the internet or even in their reviews to see, people are confused. Like if you look at their reviews, and I've done it, people will be like, hey, it doesn't make sense. The last time you had this person on the podcast, they said this, and then this person the next time said the exact complete opposite, and you didn't push back. Mm-hmm. Like you didn't question it. Yeah. You just said, oh, that's so interesting.
Do you think that's a obligation of a host to be
100%? And it's very difficult. Like I have a podcast, it's very difficult to push back, but you have to do it. And it's also why you have to have some level of knowledge on the topics you're going to be discussing, so you have enough knowledge to be able to push back. But to see a lot of these hosts not push back when people are saying the exact opposite and very demonizing harmful information, it's like you have to push back so your listener can, maybe they don't know enough to be able to critically think, but if they're just being fed this information as though it's fact back to back to back episodes, you have the responsibility to push back and say, well, why are you saying that? And this person is saying this. And you also, I think you have a responsibility to I think you have to be very careful with if you're going to decide to platform somebody who has we'll say at the very least controversial views, it is your responsibility to do enough research to be able to push back. If you haven't done enough research to push back, then you aren't ready to have them on yet. I'm not saying never have them on, but have the chutzpah and the balls to be like, hey, I'm going to learn enough so that I can push back on you when you say X, Y, and Z. I will say, if someone's listening to this, like they already are listening to a great podcast. They have the Burn Bootcamp resources. They're like, you're already listening to a great resource. So in terms of what to listen to, I think Burn is a great resource, and they're already getting great information. But yeah, it's very confusing out there, and it's discouraging because so many people will say so many different things. But anytime I see someone demonizing one method entirely, I can almost immediately write them off.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is saying like you should never do this type of training, immediately like you're off.
If they have that like absolutist type
Yes.
language.
Yes.
So if we're out there and we're scrolling and stopping on a Dr. Stacy Sims.
Yeah.
They know. Listen, I'm not.
And I will say, listen, like two things can be true. Two things can be true at the same time.
Talk.
I think she's brilliant. I think she has done a lot of great stuff, and I a lot of the stuff she says I agree with, and a lot of the stuff she says I'm like, that's patently false, and I think you know it. So again, I respect a lot of what she does. I think that overall net positive, but there are some things where, for example, I would love to have her on my podcast, and you better believe I would push back. I don't know if she'd come on, but this is also the other issue. I think her and I would probably agree on like 97% of things.
Right.
And it's those 3% that we tend to get really combative over. When I say I push back, I wouldn't be like, what the fuck? I wouldn't be like angry. It would be a very civil conversation, which I think is lost nowadays. You should be able to have civil disagreements. But there are some things that she says that I think does more harm than good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just in terms of defasting is one that I see a lot. And it's like, women should never fast.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, define what type of women. What do you mean by fasting? And what do you mean by never?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, let's
what about, I mean, fasting, like breakfast, you're breaking your fast. So like what? So overnight fasting, so that's not okay.
Yeah.
Like, and what leads you to believe that like an 8-hour fast is okay, but all of a sudden a 12-hour fast isn't okay? Like,
yes.
Where are you getting this? And often it comes down to cherry picking research and often overlooking stuff that you know exists, that you know is actually okay, but it doesn't make for a good social media clip.
Yeah, and I think ultimately that's my philosophy. Like the Burn Bootcamp podcast is not the biggest podcast in the world. We will not be controversial for the sake of being controversial. If there's something that comes up on and I don't agree with it, I'll push back on it, right? But I'm not. I want to do good for the members.
Yes.
Like I want to make sure that they know the information, and so we have this, like on the pH on the water, when the pH scale, and like some water will mark it being like 10 pH, and it's like if you go too far alkaline or too far acidic, you're screwed either way.
Yes,
so you got to kind of be in the middle, but that stuff doesn't sell, and what does sell is absolutism.
Yes.
Right? Because it makes me want to come back at you and makes me need to defend myself because I'm on absolute on the other side.
Yes.
Right? And that is
people don't understand the business of podcasting. They don't get it. So you and I, our podcast is a means to get people to take advantage of our services that can help them. Right. So this podcast is great for the members. And if someone who isn't a member of Burn Bootcamp yet, they listen to this, maybe I want to join Burn Bootcamp and I can utilize your service to improve myself, which requires you to use nuance and to science-based information to help them. Same thing with me. Whereas if someone's business is their podcast, they're not getting paid by someone using their service. They're getting paid by advertisers.
So they have to
do what they I shouldn't say they have to. The most efficient way to make the most money is they make money by downloads and by people listening so that they can take advantage of whatever the advertiser is offering, which is why they say, use this code and you can get athletic greens or whatever bullshit. And then that's how they make their money, from advertisers largely. And so they will do whatever they need to do in order to get more views and more downloads. For us, it's not about views and downloads. It's about getting people to take advantage of our service. That's how we make our income. So for us, if we go down the rabbit hole of not providing nuance or making sensationalistic claims just to get more downloads, it's actually going to hurt our business
Right.
and it's going to hurt the people listening. Whereas for the people who make their business from downloads and from advertiser dollars, it actually behooves them from a financial perspective, not from maybe their soul perspective, not from maybe their viewership's actual benefit, but it behooves them from a financial perspective to say crazy stuff so they get more downloads.
Yeah, wow, that's such a great point. It's like, show me the incentive of a human being, and I'll show you why they act the way that they act.
Yes.
And because like on this show, I don't ever sell anything. Like, what do we talk about? Franchises every now and then, and maybe join the gym if you'd like to. But we're just gonna keep giving it to you regardless of whether you join or not. And so is it a red flag for you at that when you're looking at people if their headline matches like the book that they just launched, and do you see that as a red flag if somebody's trying to sell something, or are you more looking at the critical character and examining that person and saying, I'll buy from them if I think that their character is in alignment with my best needs and not their own best needs? Like, how do you evaluate who you're going to stop and who you're going to really listen to?
Selling something isn't a red flag because we're all selling something in some way, shape, or form. The way they look at it is like, even if you're analyzing research, you always want to look at who funded the research, but just because research was funded by a company doesn't invalidate the research. Let's look at the study. How is the study done? Was it a well done study? What did the results say? Let's look at all of the factors, all of the potential biases, one of them being the funding. But just because it was funded by a certain group doesn't mean it was a bad study. And also just because it wasn't funded by someone doesn't mean it was a good study. Mm-hmm. So if someone's selling something, it just lets me know there is a financial incentive. Let's listen to what they're saying. Let's take a deeper look at this and critically think. Selling something isn't inherently bad. Making money isn't inherently bad, but it can play a massive role in why someone is doing what they're doing. And in the podcast and social media world, whether it's podcasting or even on Instagram, TikTok, whatever, you have to understand there's a reason you're seeing the posts you're seeing. There's a reason you're seeing hearing the podcast you're hearing, why those clips are the ones being brought up to the front of your screen. I think there's 30 million posts on Instagram every day. 30 million. There's a reason why you're seeing the ones that you're seeing. The way the algorithm works is it pushes the most popular ones. And typically the most popular ones are the most controversial, the most divisive, which is why I think as a country we feel very torn apart right now because there's so much divisiveness. The other option, which is lesser, but it is a certain post will either make you laugh, like it's really, really funny, or it makes you feel really, really good. Like there's oh, that was so wholesome, those types of moments. But a lot of the ones being pushed to the top of the feed are the most divisive, the most angering, the most triggering. And so if you're seeing something, there's a reason why that's being pushed to the top of your feed. And then the person creating it did that deliberately. Mm-hmm. That was a very deliberate process of I'm going to either ask this question in this way. For example, I just posted a clip of someone's podcast. This woman asked another woman a question, and she knew she was going to get a crazy answer. She said, I think it was...
should we watch it?
Yes, from yesterday. Yeah, it's the one with that woman right on the front right there. Yep, that one.
All
yep.
Right,
before we click, before we listen, all I'm going to say is the first question she asks is deliberately asked in a way to elicit a very specific response in the person she's interviewing and then in the viewer. It's a very specific reason why she asked this question the way she asked it.
All right, real clip.
Almond flour that would shock us.
Probably the most toxic food you could eat.
This is a health food that I thought 5 minutes ago. This is like all my seed oil free snacks. They opt to use almond flour instead.
But it is a seed, and it is an oily seed. That is a seed oil.
Almond flour?
Well, I don't know how defatted it is.
And so what is the problem with almonds?
Well, they have many toxins in them, and they're quite indigestible. It's at the top of the chart if the worst one. But it also has other toxins, is generally indigestible, and is damaging your gut health.
This is a comprehensive review of how almonds affect your weight, metabolic health, gut microbiome. Randomized controlled trials showed that almonds were the only nut that had a small but significant decrease in both body mass and fat mass. The researchers also found that including almonds in your diet significantly lowered your LDL cholesterol. Eating almonds significantly improved blood pressure. There's likely cognitive benefits, heart rate variability, irritability benefits, and even skin benefits. Here's another systematic review and meta-analysis with the effects of almonds on your health. Surprise, surprise, the researchers found that eating almonds reduces your risk of heart disease. Oh, look, here's another one. And what a surprise, fasting blood sugar, blood pressure, and BMI all improves, with the conclusion that eating almonds is likely going to reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. Don't be a idiot. If you like almonds, eat them. They're good for you. And if you don't like them, then don't eat them. But just don't listen to these idiots spewing nonsense on social
I love
media.
almonds. I'm so glad you did that video.
Dude.
Almond butter's my favorite.
Almonds are amazing.
Yeah.
They're a great food. But the first question she said, what
Reminds me of the ice water video. Remember that ice water video?
Yeah. Yeah.
We were rolling one day. We play your clips all the time on
Thank
here,
you.
'cause we like to bring humor to it, and you're so funny. So
The opening question was, what can you tell us about almond flour that will shock us? That is deliberately crafted to get that type of response. And not to mention the book that was on display the title is Toxic, with foods on it. It's everything in this is done specifically in a way to get people scared, to feel like something is wrong. And if they don't follow what's being said, they're going to die, get cancer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is the podcast world when their business is downloads. Their goal isn't to get you the best information. Their goal is to get more downloads.
Right.
It's a completely different business model.
yeah, because the video that you talk about water, if we actually follow the advice as you jump through, find that one, Chelsea. We'll roll that one again because it's
It's
just
right
my
there.
Oh, is it? Oh no, it's my favorite one. It's just we all laugh because it's just the truth in it.
Yeah.
It's so apparent. You know, we do research here on the podcast and we bring up articles, and the same way you were just was that a JAMA article? What was that? PubMed.
PubMed. That was on
Yeah,
PubMed.
PubMed.
Yeah.
We read a lot of JAMA articles here, and it's like that notion of there's the microplastics is a good one. There's microplastics in your water, and if you touch your computer and then put your hands in your mouth, and oh, by the way, you're breathing microplastics, and it's like I'm not supposed to breathe.
Correct.
Like that's the advice at the end of the day, and it's like demonizing normal living. This video is so funny. Can we roll this one? Let's roll this one, Chelsea.
Has to go is the consumption of tap water. You have to stop all of the
Okay. Bottled water is much healthier.
Stop drinking water from a plastic bottle. Every bottle of water that you drink from plastic contains almost 250,000 nanoparticles of plastic, which can enter your bloodstream. They can cross your blood-brain barrier and cause serious neurological damage and DNA damage, and even low sperm count in men.
What? I want more babies, man. Nobody can hate on Topo Chico. It's not tap water, glass bottle.
Next time you think about grabbing a Topo Chico, remember it was PFAS. The problem is these chemicals have ended up in much of our water and food supply and can contribute to things like kidney cancer, developmental issues, and weakened immune systems.
What the f am I supposed to drink? Okay, I'm just gonna have some ice water because no one can say that a nice glass of ice water is bad for you.
If you're drinking ice water, I'd like to tell you to please stop. Drinking ice water actually slows down your metabolism. It can create extra mucus in your digestive system.
I hate social media. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a nice balanced meal and some gross room temperature water, and no one's gonna say about it.
We should stop drinking half an hour before the meal and then drinking 1.5 hours to 2 hours after the meal. If someone's drinking with their meals, they water down enzymes in the stomach, and the stomach knows that, so digestion stops.
You know what? It's not like it's gonna kill me, and at least it's hydrating me, right? So at least there's some benefit to it.
also believe water is a scam. Water is a solvent, so it's dissolving your body. The fact that people say cells is crap, actually no benefit to it.
What is happening in society? Making this video is one of the most depressing things I've done in my entire career. That last guy literally said you shouldn't drink water because it's dissolving your body. At this point, I don't even know what to say other than being healthy is not as complicated as these make it out to be. If you're tired of the nonsense health and fitness advice on social media and you just want a no straight to the point, science-based place where you can get accurate information, it would mean the world to me if you gave me a follow. If
Yeah,
not,
so that's
totally
good.
fine.
So so obviously that how did that video do overall in terms of your content in general?
That video blew up.
Did it blow up?
I think
I
it's
bet.
like my most popular video.
That video is, bro, that's genius.
It's
like
insane,
it is so
dude.
genius because it hits truth right on the head.
It just shows like no matter what you do, There's going to be someone out there saying that is going to kill you.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. That's bad. That's dangerous. And the only reason these people are making these videos is because it's getting them more views, because the views are essentially a form of currency right now. And people will say and do whatever, even if they know it's not true, just to get more views, just so that, because that's what they can use for advertisers or whatever it is, for social clout. It's a really big problem.
What I see you doing, you tell me if I'm just applying my marketing mind to it. What you're doing is you're in some form, in some like prescripted way, you're taking these controversial headlines and the knowledge that you have of these are the things that people are going to watch the most, but you're reverse engineering that, putting that up front so you can get the algorithm boosts from that, but then coming down and like leading with the controversy, but then debunking it with humorous truth.
Exactly.
It's so smart.
That's exactly
It's
right.
such a smart thing to do.
Because I know they're coming across people's feed, so I might as well use it and say, I know you're seeing this. Let's talk about how stupid it is.
It is so genius, and that's on purpose.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And I really enjoy your content. You guys should definitely be following Jordan if you do not already. It cuts right through the truth. One of my favorite accounts to follow. No BS. So let's talk about this. You kind of brought up something that made me think about the state of the FDA and Robert F. Kennedy and the FDA, how they had just banned like red dye. I think it was red dye 3. What was it that they just banned? Do you remember?
Red 40.
Red 40. And maybe red dye 3 was a lot. Anyways, if you look back and, we are conditioned to listen to the CDC and listen to the government and listen to authority and authority rules. And a lot of people look to the government to say, for example, today, aspartame, aspartame K, aspartame potassium, all those sugar substitutes, right, are thought to be perfectly healthy. I can't even find any peer-revised third-party medical journals that like say, "Hey, don't do that." Like, don't drink Diet Coke or aspartame or whatever it is. But then there's this other intuitive side of me that says, like, I don't know, it feels like that's wrong, and I don't have any science to back that up. But what I do have is looking at the history of what the government and the authorities have said. Oh, this is healthy. This is safe. Go to GPT and say, what in America, what food chemicals were previously deemed universally safe that are no longer universally safe? Google that, because there's a whole list of things.
Yeah, of course.
Like they would, for 70 years, would say, "Hey, this dye, this coloring in our food is safe," and all of a sudden, an advance in technology or the way we research, or just somebody cares enough about it to say that's wrong.
Yeah,
and then we go back and we say, "Oh, all the last 70 years of this one substance, you're telling me that I was putting myself in harm's way for 70 years because of your advice?" And then I start to think about the advice that governments give today, CDC and World Health Organization are giving today around sugar substitutes is the one that comes to my mind the most, because it's that controversial one where Lane Norton is a big proponent of like randomized
control trials.
Human randomized control trials, that thing. And then he'll drop like this aspartame, you eat it in quantities. I'll drink a Diet Coke, blah, blah, blah. It's not a bad thing. Okay, I don't know. I don't know whether he's right or wrong. I think time will tell. What is your thoughts, your process? How do you think about that dynamic versus what we're currently told today versus the evidence that we have for other substances that have been proven to actually, that have proven that we should have some skepticism today on what we're being told?
Yeah, so I'll start with throughout history. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that doctors were smoking in the patient room with their patient. Yeah. They were smoking cigarettes with
Pull up some of those ads, 1950s doctors smoking cigarette ads.
It's not long ago. And so for me, the way that I see a lot of this stuff right now is unfortunate in that people are wearing a jersey, their team jersey, like they're either red or they're blue, and whatever their team does, they can do no wrong. Whatever the other team does, like, it's always wrong. For me, I try and listen. There are a lot of issues with baseball umpires, but like I try and call balls and strikes as they are. You know, I don't care what team it is. It's just like, if that's a strike, it's a strike. If it's a ball, it's a ball. Um, for me, I'm very careful to try and not make dogmatic, absolutist statements and be like, this is definitively good, this is definitively bad. Like, I always try and preface with, based on the current evidence, this is what we know, and I'm always willing to change my mind based on whatever happens in the future. In terms of sugar substitutes, based on all of the current evidence that we have, they appear to be very safe. And we will learn more. We do have a substantial amount of evidence, but we're always going to learn more as new studies come out. So for me, as of right now, listen, I love Diet Coke. Like, I have a Diet Coke every day. For me, it's fine. But if someone's like, I'm a little bit nervous about it, and great, so don't have it. That's totally fine. I don't think Diet Coke should make up the majority of your water intake. I think the majority of your hydration should come from water. But like, for me, I'm not scared of them based on the current evidence that we have. Anytime I have this intuitive, like you had said, intuitively it feels weird, that's something I try and pay attention to, like, well, why am I feeling that way? Because that in of itself is a logical fallacy, where it's like, because people say, well, it's not natural. It's not natural. That's a logical fallacy, the naturalistic fallacy. Well, because it's natural must mean that it's good for you. It's like, okay, well, I mean, poison ivy is natural. You don't want to eat poison ivy.
That's a great point.
Right? It's like, just because it's natural. I mean, listen, within the seeds of an apple, what's arsenic, or what is the very poisonous chemical that's within the seeds of an apple? I forget.
I'll look it up.
Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's good for you, and just because something is processed doesn't mean it's bad for you. There have been countless mistakes made by government organizations and made by doctors. It actually wasn't even that long ago that doctors recommended not running because it got your heart rate up, and they thought that you had a predetermined number of heartbeats. And they're like, well, we don't want to get your heart rate up because you're going to get rid of your heart rate, your heartbeats already. So, I mean, research is ever evolving. What we want to do is we want to be open-minded. We want to call balls and strikes. And it's specific to the question of sugar substitutes. I'm not scared of them, but I am mindful of them. I'm definitely not recommending people have all of them. But what I will say is, if we're looking at large-scale data, the United States, the biggest issue we have right now is an obesity epidemic, which is leading to heart disease, numerous cancers. It's like, okay, so if we're going to, for me, if I'm going to look at the most imminent threat that we have to our public health, it's chronic obesity. And so what is one of the easiest ways we can help get rid of that, or to reduce caloric intake? If I can get someone to replace their 2 liters of regular Coke with 2 liters of Diet Coke, is that ideal? Is that optimal? No, but it's definitely better than having all of those extra thousands of calories. It's going to help them lose body fat, which will reduce their risk of, we know, numerous cancers, heart disease, stroke, heart attacks, all of that stuff. So do I want people to be having 2 liters of Diet Coke every day? Of course not. But relative to what a huge percentage of the United States population is doing, I do think it's a better choice. And I also want to get to a point where people can, God forbid, if they have a Diet Coke, not be anxious for the next week because of it. It's like, if you decide to make that choice based on the current evidence, it appears to be safe, but let's not make that your main form of hydration.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. When you think about like the caloric effects of food, obviously the aspartame, let's just call it that as a placeholder for all sugar substitutes, it doesn't have that caloric effect. But what do you think about the insulin effect of the food? Because when you do look at aspartame, you do look at these sugar substitutes, it's, from what I see and the way that I interpret the data, is it's there's no calories, but the chemical structure has an influence on insulin and on the hormonal effects of food overall. Whether I believe that or not, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I'm asking you.
So it doesn't. It's
Okay.
And I did an experiment on this, and there, even more than my experiment, we could just look at practical data. But so I did an experiment where I wore a continuous glucose monitor for 30 days straight.
Okay.
Because I wanted to see the effects of various foods, and basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to show people that oftentimes we hear that if you spike your blood sugar, then you spike your insulin, then you're not going to be able to lose fat. So for 30 days, I wore a CGM, continuous glucose monitor, and I deliberately spiked my blood sugar every single day while eating in a calorie deficit. I lost 14 pounds while doing this. And one of the
slow down real quick on that. So you went for how long?
30 days.
30 days, and you ate in a caloric deficit.
Yep.
Was there a set amount of calories?
No,
for the experiment.
No,
Just in a
it
caloric
was low.
deficit?
It was a low amount of calories in order to lose 14 pounds in 30 days.
Right. So the criteria was just be in a deficit.
Be in a deficit and spike my blood sugar every day. So so there was one day where I literally just ate a quarter of a cup of sugar, and that's not all I ate, but like I would deliberately spike my blood sugar every day, and I would have the data for my CGM to prove it that my blood sugar spiked up, because we're often told that blood sugar spikes are bad. It's like, no, they're really important. It's a normal response to eating food. But I would pick one thing. So sometimes my wife and I would go to Krispy Kreme and we get donuts. One day I had a quarter of a cup of sugar.
Sounds like a great experiment.
Some days I would I had gummy worms. But one of the experiments I wanted to do to make sure I was really dead set on doing to show this was I had a Diet Coke while I was wearing my CGM, because some people say it will spike your blood sugar. Which it does not. There's no sugar in it. There's no carbohydrates. There's no calories. And some people say, well, it spikes insulin because it tricks your body. Number one, what the does that mean? Tricking your, like, let's be honest. Like, when people say it tricks your body's really smart. You can't trick your body. And I hate when people say that with working out too. Like, yeah, you're going to confuse your body. No, you're not.
The system.
Yeah, you're not confusing your body.
Yeah.
All right. If it spiked my insulin, then I would have seen a radical drop in my blood sugar. Right? Because as insulin spikes, you would see the shuttling of blood sugar. No, my blood sugar stayed exactly the same over time. And I have all the data to prove it, and I put it in a big YouTube video. And even more than my N=1 experiment, if this sugar substitute or any of these sugar substitutes were spiking insulin or spiking blood sugar, then type 1 diabetics would not be able to drink it. Right? They would have to be very careful of when they were drinking it. They would have to be making sure that their blood sugar was in a proper range. Talk to any type 1 diabetic and ask, can you have a Diet Coke? They're like, yeah, of course. I love it. Maybe they don't drink it for any other reason, but type 1 diabetics can have it without issue. If there is no calories in it, there's no calories, there's no sugar, there's no nothing. It's not affecting your blood sugar. It's not affecting your insulin.
That's interesting. So then what's left in it? Okay, I'm making the assumption that all those things are true.
Mm-hmm.
What's left then that would make that something that wouldn't be a health food? Phosphoric acid, maybe? Like that's about...
Yeah, and this is where I get into when we look at one individual ingredient and catastrophize it. Really what it boils down to is the dose makes the poison.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. It's how much of that one thing are you having? Listen, if you drink too much water, you die.
Yeah, you can have like water toxicity.
You can have water toxicity. Yeah, that's exactly right. You can,
and how do you get that? You just drink like 5 gallons of water in a half an hour, something ridiculous.
Yeah, you can drink way too much water, and it's rare, but people have died from that.
They've died, yeah.
It'll dilute your blood. It'll dilute your blood.
So you're saying too much of anything.
Too much of anything, and often too little of anything.
Kind of back to the pH scale.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And what I think is, to a lesser degree than chronic obesity, but is a real issue, is this fear of food that we have. And going back to that water video I made, I mean, people are scared. They don't know what water to drink. I'm like, let's relax. Our bodies, the only reason we've survived as long as we've survived is because we are very good at adapting to our environment. We are very good at it. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't be aware and cautious. I think we should be, and we should be focused on the research and looking at clear evidence of what is hurting us and what's not hurting us. But also, the dose makes the poison. If you are having too much or too little of anything and worrying about phosphoric acid in your one Diet Coke, I'm so not concerned about it, especially like if someone's not exercising several times a week, if someone is not getting enough sleep on a day-to-day basis, if someone is not eating enough protein and fiber on a regular basis, if you're worrying about the phosphoric acid in your Diet Coke, like, you're missing the forest for the trees.
There's so much of that, isn't there, where we're mistaking the movement for progress, or like the Pareto principle. It's it's like the 20% of things that you need to be doing are going to be what you need to do. It's like, just eat in a slight caloric deficit and work out.
Yes.
Like, just do those things and you're going to be fine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And
it's that simple.
It really is that simple, which doesn't mean it's easy.
Do you think social media is like just taking the simplicity of that and overshadowing the simplicity of it
Yeah,
with
of
all
course.
of these little nuances that are mistaking movement for
Well, I mean,
progress?
what drives social media views is if it's simple and easy to follow, that doesn't drive views. Views are driven by fear. Views are driven by complexity. There's this illusion of complexity that drives people to want to continue watching. If people already know I should be eating well, I should be eating more fiber, I should be eating more protein, I should be working out, why are they going to watch a video that talks about it? Because they already know it, but they're not doing it. But all of a sudden you have someone telling you that XYZ in your drink is poisoning you. I didn't know that. I need to watch that. It's going to get more views. So social media drives this fear, and it makes it seem way more complex than it actually is.
So if you're sitting down with somebody, they're deconditioned, they're on the couch, man. They haven't ever, their parents told them like 20 years ago, and they've never really questioned it since, that they're not a fitness person and we're just big bone and this is the way we are. And we're not fitness people. And they're like sitting there today at 43 years old and still believing that, never applying curiosity to the foundational principles that shape who they are. They're living someone else's version of themselves, and that's put them in this like mild depression. They're on the couch right now, and we have to keep it simple, right? We can't confuse them. How do we go can you motivate someone to get up off the couch who's currently demotivated and currently inundated and confused by all this stuff? What's the momentum to get that cycle started?
Yeah, so listen, there are many different models, but one of my favorite models of behavior changes, it's called the trans-theoretical model of behavior change. And you have to figure out where that person is at. Do they know it's a problem? Because if they know it's a problem, but they're not doing it, it's a different approach than if someone who doesn't know it's a problem. But most people, especially with their health, they know they should be moving, but oftentimes it's maybe they're in a really difficult part of their life. Maybe they're struggling with loss. Maybe they're struggling with trauma. But for me, and I think what you do really well is you try and reduce the barrier to entry. Now, I think one of the biggest problems is people feel like if they're not working out an hour, 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, then they feel like it's not worth it. And it's like, why bother if it's not going to get me any results? And I've always said, since I remember we had a class in college where we were looking at the cellular response to just like a 10-minute walk. And I was like, oh my gosh, if people saw what happens in your body on a cellular level just from a 10-minute walk, everyone would realize this is all worth it. This is worth it just to do this. So for me, the first thing I always recommend is just walk. Get up and walk. I don't care if it's around your apartment, around your neighborhood. Just get up and move for 5 minutes. I've never met anyone who felt worse after going on a walk, ever, even if it's 5 minutes. And also, if you say, I'm only going to go on a walk for 5 minutes, it usually ends up lasting 15, 20, 30 minutes because you feel better. It's enjoyable. Make a phone call, listen to a podcast, read an audiobook. Like, get out and move. I think it's the best thing anybody can do. And once you start doing that, often other things will then seem worth it. So I used to do the opposite. I used to say, let's focus on nutrition first. I actually, in the last 5 to 7 years, I've changed that. I say, let's focus on your fitness first, because fitness, you feel immediately better. You notice an immediate improvement in your mental mood, your emotional mood, your physical. You see results very quickly. Whereas with nutrition, you might make that harder choice, whether it's eating more fruits and vegetables or more lean proteins, whatever it is, but you don't necessarily feel better right away. And oftentimes you feel more deprived.
Right.
So I noticed that if you start with fitness and movement, you will end up making better nutritional choices because all of a sudden it feels worth it to you. So starting up, just move.
I found that to be true as well in Burn, and just meeting people and just the daunting nature of nutrition and all the information that it creates this paralyzation if you try to get them started on that.
Yes.
And not mentally, it's very easy very manageable, especially when you're like a person that might be depressive. It's very manageable to say, just get up and walk for a few minutes.
Yes.
Right. Rather than go to the grocery store and go to these aisles you've never eat these foods, make this. That's
It's a much bigger task, mentally, emotionally, physically. It's much more time consuming. And I think the other aspect of it is if you can have a community around it. I mean, community is there's no question that it's one of the most important determinants for long-term health. And that's one of the reasons I love Burn. It's because you have an amazing community of people who love each other. And again, shout out to Patty Pickrell because she sings your praises all the time.
Can we pull Patty's? We got to give Patty some love because Jordan, Patty, your buddies. And how are you guys connected again?
So she was a member of my inner circle for a very long time, and
awesome.
She became a Burn coach, and she loves it, man. And she loves the coaching. She loves the people. The community is the biggest thing. And one of the things I typically look at in the research and just as I try and use from more of a just a very basic, like logical understanding of life is let's look at the longest living populations in the world. And what do the longest living populations in the world do? PATTI, pickerel. PAT. If you go to my followers or yeah, PATTI, PICK, PICKREL, I think. Yeah,
There she is.
There
right
she is.
there.
Yeah,
The top one. Perfect.
she's amazing. She when you look at the longest living populations in the world, it's not the people who are we'll look at a few of them. We have the Okinawans are one of the longest living populations in the world.
Where are they at?
They're Japan.
Japan.
So you have Okinawans, you have Greece, you have Italy, you have I believe even Norway. You have a bunch of these populations. Their diets are vastly different, right? The Japanese eat very different than the Italians. Greeks eat very different than those in Norway. But these are among the longest living populations in the world. What is the common denominators? Well, number one is movement. They move a lot. Number one is also lower stress levels, which is one of the reasons why I decided I didn't want to just be a super high-powered CEO and working constantly. It's like if you look at the longest living jobs, CEOs aren't on that list.
It's on the bottom.
Right? They're chronically stressed,
Right.
and so for me, if I'm looking at even if we look at diet, like people will demonize white rice, for example, which I always think is funny. It's like literally the longest living population in the world eats white rice multiple times a day. Italians, also very long living population. They eat pasta on a regular basis. Well, what's going on here? Their portion sizes are much smaller than we have here in the United States. If you go to Italy and have a portion of pasta, it's much smaller than the portion that we have here at a typical Italian restaurant or even in your home. And so going into eating appropriate portions, having a balanced diet, and relatively trying to have as low stress as possible, while still having a very strong community, whether it's in Okinawa. And this is one of the reasons, I'm Jewish, but I think I don't care if you're Jewish, if you're Christian, if you're Muslim, if you're Baha'i, if you're agnostic, I don't care. But having a strong community around you is one of the most important things you can do for your health, not just physical, but mental and emotional and spiritual as well. And again, I will continue to sing Burns' praises because one thing that I think you do better than any other is you have an amazing community. And going back to Patty, she talks about it to me all the time. The community is amazing. She's always sharing in her stories about the facility that she trains at for Burn.
Did we get Patty up on the screen?
Yeah, this is Patty's Instagram. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. I'm just very impressed, not just with her, but with everything you do here at Burn, because the community is an integral part of health and fitness and just life in general. And I think you guys have prioritized it, which is absolutely essential.
Shout out, Patty. Thanks for all you do. Shout out to Centerville. You guys are awesome. I haven't been up to Centerville yet. I'm going to get up there soon. Definitely. And I'll hang out with them. Maybe some point down the line, you and I can get up to Centerville some
Dude, let's
way,
do it.
and Patty can kick our ass together.
Let's do it.
That'd be fun. Jordan, so I wanna ask maybe a handful more questions. What time is it? 11:44. Okay, we got time. So
I have no rush, by the way.
Okay, good.
My podcasts are like 3 hours.
Okay,
so I'll sit
okay.
here for however long.
Okay, great. So as you're going through some of your philosophy, and starts with if you're deconditioned and you're in a bad place mentally, just get up, get some momentum, start walking. This momentum builds over time. There becomes a point in time when which walking is no longer sufficient for you, and you graduate to that next step, and then there's a next step, and then there's a next step. Do you look at it that way? Do you look at fitness being in like seasons in which are you really wanting your members or your clients? Is that the correct terminology?
Yeah, members.
Okay,
clients,
we use members.
Yeah.
Are you looking at them and saying, "Hey, what are your goals, and I'll help you get there," or are you taking the philosophy of, "Here's what you've done, here's what you can do. Let me show you the next level." That's going to be your program. Like, are you pulling a lot of your members forward and saying and showing them and painting the picture for them and saying, "This is what you're going to be, and this is where we're going to go with this," and inspiring from that regard? Or do you take the approach of kind of letting people gradually release and progress as they feel they're getting there and they've got the confidence and
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. It's a great question. I think it depends on the person, depends where they are in life right now, like how I'm treating someone who is in a phase of like, hey, I have the time and I'm ready, willing, and able to like really push myself hard. That person I'll probably treat differently than someone who just lost a loved one and might just be doing anything they can to scrape by on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to treat them differently, and that could even be the same person at different times in their life. Walking is one of the things where I just consider walking always good. Like, I don't care if you're an elite athlete. I don't care if you're just starting out. Walking is just like always good. Um, Especially just because, like I said, I don't know anyone who's ever taken a walk and felt worse after.
especially after food. Right after dinner, that's when I go for walks with my family.
Yeah.
Feel
Amazing.
amazing right away.
So we take family walks every day. We just, we've got the two young girls and God willing another on the way. It's like just based on our schedule, we do it before dinner. Like we just take a family walk. It's one of my favorite parts of the day. But for some people, very slow walking is enough to improve their cardiovascular health for some people if they're very deconditioned. For other people, it's not enough to improve their cardiovascular health, but it's enough to improve the quality of their day. It's enough to improve just have another check mark in I moved today. I got my body moving. But if I have someone who's like, hey, I'm walking 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day. It's not difficult for me, and I want to improve my health further. Well, yeah, now let's crank it up a little bit. Let's get some more zone 2 in there. Let me get a little bit like higher intensity work a couple times a week. I'll definitely push them. And one thing I always try and do is try and encourage people to get better, to progressively overload, whether it's in strength training, whether it's in conditioning. But for me, walking is the baseline of every day, let's do this. And then on top of it, if you want to add a little bit of higher intensity work, great. One thing that we have in our app is we calculate the total volume of their workouts. So at the end of the workout, it'll show them how much total weight they lifted. And so one simple way to make sure they're progressing is like, let's get that number higher next week. So this workout on your day 2 workout, you lifted 7,000 total pounds. Let's get that to 7,050. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that is a really simple way to, number one, encourage people like, wow, holy shit, I lifted that much today. And also next week, let's just increase a little bit, because you add 5 pounds or you add a couple reps to a lift, all of a sudden you've increased by about 50 pounds or so for that one workout session. So always trying to get them to improve, to know that they are much stronger than they think they are, to get them to push harder, because people are much more capable than they often give themselves credit for. So I do want to be there. And also for other people, be mindful that like, hey, sometimes just movement for you, as long as we're getting a little bit in today, that's better than nothing, and it is really good.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I think your philosophy is largely aligned to ours in that regard. It's just the cycle of momentum, and it's the small win, and it's introducing that next step. That's you can swallow it, right? Like I can chew this up and swallow it. This isn't daunting to me.
Yes,
I don't have to like conquer the world. You know, I just have to do this one thing. Like maybe my favorite. Yours was like a Diet Coke example. Reminded me of this. I had a member who was about 40 pounds overweight, just getting started, and I was shadowing a trainer in, where was this? This was in the Triangle. This was at Burlington, North Carolina, and I was shadowing the trainer. As a new trainer, we'd have this thing called focus meetings.
Yeah.
So we'll sit down like this, and we'll just say, hey, what's going on in your life? Why are you here? How can we make this a more wonderful experience for you nutritionally? What performance goals do you have? What does this mean to your family, type thing? And so he started going over our kind of routine focus meeting. But, when you're green and you're a rookie, it's like a repeatable template. You don't really know how to, mirror the person that you're sitting next to yet. And so this lady, like, there were just a complete mismatch. Like, she was emotionally in a recession, overweight, visibly, posture's bad, eyes are down. And, our trainer starts going in, he's like, hey, you're going to like cut out this do the boiled chicken. And like, you're going to do this for you, dude, be in a calorie deficit. I'm like, you lost this lady at macronutrients, man. So all we did, and she lost 40 pounds doing this in about 6 months. All we did, she would go to Chick-fil-A every single day. And I said, I want you to go to Chick-fil-A every single day. And what I want you to do is order that same exact sandwich every single day. And that top half of the bun and the bottom half, here's what I have you do. You're just going to take the bottom half of the bun off, throw that away, rip the top bun, make a sandwich, and then you're going to eat the sandwich.
I love this.
And she lost 40 pounds.
I
6
love
months
that.
just by working out and doing that one change. She didn't change anything else.
And I bet if you looked at her blood work, it improved dramatic. It's impossible to lose 40 pounds and not have dramatically improved blood work. You changed her life in so many ways with the simplest strategy. You didn't make huge changes, a very simple change. You got to allow her to eat her favorite food. I mean, man, I'm very happy to hear that. That's an incredible strategy.
Do I want her to eat Chick-fil-A every day? Obviously, I don't want her to do that.
I want to eat Chick-fil-A every day, bro.
I do too. I do too. But I need to get her to the point where her discipline is something that isn't a chore. It's something that is a virtue for her.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I can have the Diet Coke, but I know that I can just have one because I have enough discipline not to make that 40.
Yes. Yep.
I know you've got crazy stories. Do you work mostly today with clients, or do you work mostly with trainers, or is it a mix of both?
Mostly with fitness members in my app.
Okay.
I have a separate business that teaches coaches how to become better coaches.
Got it.
But the majority of my time is with fitness, just everyday fitness people.
Got it. So you're hearing kind of the same incredible stories. There's this thing, if you guys don't know this, Jordan and I know this intrinsically. There's a relationship that you have when you're a trainer with your member that is sacred. You're the first person they tell a lot of new life events to, like when they're pregnant, when they're getting married, because you're so much a part of who they are, because you're responsible. They're giving you, they're putting you in charge, giving you responsibility over their health because they don't quite know how to do it. So they're entrusting us to do that. So we always hear about the pregnancy. Hey, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anyone. We found out yesterday that we're pregnant, right?
Yes.
And you get
yes.
that. And it's an amazing career. I am a trainer first. I am a business owner and entrepreneur second. I've trained 15,000 of our burn boot camps before I ever, and I was CEOing at the same time, but eventually had to set that down and grow the company. But I love training. It's an art to me, and there's some science to it, but it's an art as well. You're taking this human being and you're asking them what they actualize for themselves, and then you're providing to me, it's like they're kind of like feeling around in the dark for like the next kind of stepping stone, and you're the one that's like, hey, just go to the right a little bit more. Oh, there it is. You feel that one? Yeah, step on that, and now you're on the next step.
Yeah,
and I just love it. I love it. One of my favorite things to do in our organization is to work with our 3,000 trainers, Patty, and to teach them some of these principles. So I say all that to set you up for a question. When you are giving advice to trainers, Patty, let's say, and you're speaking directly to them, and they're asking you, hey, Jordan, how do I be the best trainer that I possibly can? How do I have the most influence that I can? How do I get bigger in my online community, in my local community, both? How do you approach a conversation when trainers come to you, they look up to you as a trainer, and they say, hey, Jordan, Mr. Guru, man, teach me a couple things because I'm new in this game, and I look up to you. What do you say to them?
Number one is, listen, I've been doing the same exact thing. I started my website in July of 2011. I've been doing the exact same thing in different mediums, but I just help people for free every day. That's it. And I give away, and I say this in air quotes, all of my secrets. I give it all away for free. And often people are like, well, if you give it away for free, then why are they going to want to work with you?
Is that a Gary V thing, or did you always believe that? Because I know that's his philosophy too.
I intuitively knew it. And then through working with Gary, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. It became much more clear concept for me. But that's what I did. It's the reality is, number one, you learned it from someone else. You're like, anytime someone's like, oh, I have these special methods. No, you don't. Like, we all learned it from someone much smarter than us. And anything and everything is available online, on AI. Like, if someone wants a program, they can get it for free from someone else. In today's world, people aren't paying for coaching. They're paying for coaches. They're paying for the individual. They because they trust you, because they appreciate you, because they see the old adage, like, people don't care about you until they know how much you care about them. every day on social media in my inner circle, I'm trying to let people know that I care about them so much it hurts. That like every ounce of my soul is I care about you and your life and your success so much that I'm gonna do everything I can to make your life better. And when people feel that and know that it's true, they want to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, there are thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, not millions of coaches, people who call themselves coaches on social media. Why would they choose you? There are many people who say the same or similar things. Why are they going to choose you? It's because they know that you care about them. They're not just a random follower. They're someone, a person with a real life and family and goals and meaning, and they want you to be a part of that. So it's again very simple, and it's not gonna go viral, but it's help them for free every day. Don't keep any secrets. Just share the most simple, effective tools to help them improve. There are other we could look at other components as well, but there have been many times where I've made a mistake, where I've said something incorrect, and I will make a post saying, "Hey, I was wrong. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I said X, Y, and Z. That was actually incorrect. And here's like, I have no issue saying if I made a mistake, and actually it helps people trust you more, because oftentimes people will make a mistake and they'll dig their heels in, or they'll pretend that it never happened. And that just makes people not trust you, because if you can't be open and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I made a mistake," then why would they trust you?
Yeah.
So I have no problem going on social media and be like, "Hey, I just want to apologize. I made a mistake." You know who actually did that recently is Sean Ryan. I don't know if you know who Sean Ryan is.
I have heard of him. I don't follow him much.
He made a mistake on a podcast, and he made a whole apology video about it. And I was like, huge respect. And no one in the comments was saying, you're an idiot. Everyone was saying, this is why we trust you, because you're willing to admit when you make a mistake. And so, and on the back end of that, as a coach, I think many, especially newer coaches, feel like they have to present themselves as an expert. I never present myself as an expert. I always present myself as a coach who's learning. I'm not like I'm not being like, I am the foremost expert on this topic. I'm just a coach, and I'm trying to learn more every day. I'm trying to get better so I can help you, and I will make mistakes. And I think people ask if I ever have imposter syndrome. No, because I'm not pretending to be faultless. I'm not pretending to know everything. I know I'm going to make mistakes. So if you try and present yourself as the all-knowing expert, you're going to have imposter syndrome, because you are not an all-knowing expert. Right. And if you think that you are, that's a big problem.
Right.
If the moment that you think you know everything is the moment that you're going to lose.
Right.
So I think if you go out and help people for free, you're okay and willing and open to make mistakes, and you don't present yourself as the all-knowing expert of everything, it's really hard to fail.
I agree. And trainers had a rough time through the pandemic, and obviously gyms and training and bars. Weirdly enough, gyms and bars were like public enemy number one during the time, and was like the complete opposite ends of. I get it why, but like the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. And trainers go through this. I mean, it blew up. Our industry was basically disassembled and reassembled. 24-hour, 24/7 fitness,
which is one of the biggest failures of our government. To be just blunt about it, like shutting down gyms, was terrible. Was one of the. It will go down as in history as one of, like, alcohol stores were deemed essential.
That's wild.
But gyms were shut down. It is, and regardless of politics aside, that was one of the biggest failures of our government that during that time.
God, I'm glad to hear somebody else say that. Jordan, I was sitting in this building. We had 275 gyms open at the time. I'm right over there on the floor. It comes into California. Everyone's like, "Hey, this thing just came in from California." 2 hours later, the government says we're shutting down, or some arbitrary amount of hours later. I had to make a decision. This is where leadership comes into play, by the way.
Yeah.
Anybody can be good when times are good. When times are bad, everyone's good. You'll know who the leader is, because everyone will be looking at you when nobody knows the answer.
Yeah.
What are we going to do, Devan? And, I had to make that decision to shut all of them down. Nobody knows. Like, take yourself back to that moment in time.
Of course.
So, whoa, dude. Like, I don't want to be the one person that, like, fought against this thing. And that was the scariest moment of my life. But then I went home and I got in I call it the lab. It's like a bird boot camp home gym where I like go. It's my solitude, like my man cave. It's the only thing in the house that my wife Morgan will allow me to actually like control the environment. Like everything else is just her environment, and I better have it clean and picked up at all times, or else I'm in trouble. But I remember going in and just doing a just hardcore workout. It's like a meathead strength workout and just like a grunting and lifting. And there's something came over me like, this is the, oh yeah, there's the lab. You could mute that, but you can let that run. That's my home gym.
That's awesome.
Right there. But anyway, and I'll get to my question for you. I'm in the lab, I'm working out, and like this spiritual voice came over me and it made me cry and it made me like really hot and red. And it was like, it said like, I know this sucks. This is exactly what you need though. This is exactly what has to happen in order for you to get to where you're going and to where you told me you were going and to where I'm going to propel you to go, because you are living through virtue and you're living through core value. You're doing it the right way. Weather this storm, handle this with positivity and optimism, and be the leader that people need you to be during this time. Be the emotional fortitude that they do not have, and step up. And so I listened to that. I went online later to our internal closed group, to our franchise partners, and I said, guys, we've got to hold the line. We're not a big company backed by billions of dollars, like maybe like a Rorik had Orange Theory at the time,
right?
You know, maybe a Lifetime Fitness, a big enterprise with billions of dollars. I mean, we're doing well, but we're not there. And I had to like almost two fists on the table, go online and pound we have to hold the line. So we didn't change membership at all. Prices, we didn't roll them back. We couldn't.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have had a company anymore.
Yeah.
And so then we started live streaming. We slept overnight in the studio for the weekend to devise a plan. And we started live streaming on Monday morning at like 55,000 people on a live stream.
Oh, that's amazing.
You know, and it was just like an incredible moment for us. But what it did, and I'll get to the question now, is like it shook up the entire industry.
It did.
So people that were in the online game, people that were in the physical game were like, oh, physical game is not here anymore. Should I go to the online game? Online game is like, holy, this is the supply demand curve has fundamentally shifted.
Immediately, overnight.
Immediately, right? So I don't need to change my membership prices because the next best supply is now this online. So we had this equipment, thankfully, already, and we went to live stream. But in it was very hard to see it all clearly.
Yeah.
And so that dynamic unfolded. Personal training online blew up. It's here to stay. But also, you know, Peloton online and those types of things also took a dip. Mm-hmm. Like when the pendulum inevitably swung back, there's this element of fitness, right? That is physical. And there's this element of training. And I know you coach a lot online. I do a lot of training in person. There's elements of relationship there in both of them, but there's the physical relationship when I'm touching and feeling somebody that is that extra motivation for somebody that, like, you know, I'm not going to do the online thing because I'm not motivated, when somebody wants to do the online thing because they don't like the group stuff, right? So it's a virtuous kind of circle. Now, where are we at, right? If you kind of agree with that loose timeline of like dynamics and shifts over time, we're in the same building, right? We're in the same, we're both sports, right? Like we're fitness. I'm maybe like the NBA and you're like the MLB or whatever, but we're both sports and we both play in the same world. How is the online world shifted? How have you seen it shift for the negative and the positive since the pendulum is kind of, the dust is kind of settled and it's not all digital or all physical? And now it's like this demand of almost this hybrid approach, generally speaking, or at least that's my philosophy. What's yours?
So do you mean like how has it shifted from a business perspective?
Yes. How do you see the industry shifting? Yeah. Not necessarily from like a member engagement perspective.
Yeah.
But from an industry perspective, how do you see it shifting? Where do you see it based on the shifts and where might it be going in the future?
Yeah. I mean, I will say going back to COVID, I was unbelievably blessed because I had already had an online business since 2011. So I was ready to go. I have a significant number of friends and colleagues who lost their in-person businesses as a result of COVID. It was absolutely devastating, not just for fitness, but for many, many businesses, especially small businesses. So I was very fortunate. I will say, I think it was like March 15th, somewhere around there, that like it was announced. And about the first 2 weeks, I saw a huge dip in membership because people were losing their jobs. People were very nervous. So a lot of cancellations in the first 2 weeks, which was very scary. But then after those first 2 weeks, people were not moving. They were quarantined at home. They'd gained some weight, and all of a sudden, boom, membership spiked up after those 2 weeks. So a tremendous blessing for me personally. And I was just fortunate that I had all the systems already set up. After that, I think we saw a huge number of people being like, okay, I want to get online now. Like, this is much more accessible. I can impact more people in the online than purely in person. Like, if they have just a one brick and mortar place, I mean, I think you have like over 450 places right now, which is insane, which is absolutely incredible. But you do a good job of, you have both in person and online. So you take advantage of both. I only take advantage of online. So I think some people say in person is going to die. I disagree completely. There are some people will prefer online, and these are typically people who are a little bit more self-motivated. They don't need someone there with them. But there are some people who they love the in-person stuff. That it's never going to die. In-person will never die because people like having a community. There are some people who need to have that accountability of in-person, someone there with them, someone motivating them. So I think they're both going to do really well. I'm very interested in how AI is going to impact everything because, quite frankly, I don't know how it will. I know some people are like, well, aren't people just going to start getting programs from AI? And they already have. People get programs from AI, and I've played around with it just to see what it does. Some of the programs are pretty good. Some of them are pretty.
Yeah.
But like,
I'd say they're like 70. They're C plus
yeah,
so far.
some of that, like,
I agree with that, or
I would say a basic strength program is probably like a B plus. Like, it'll give you a solid basic strength, but like, it's not comprehensive and it's just strength. But as soon as you start adding in conditioning or AI sucks with mobility.
Yeah,
it's
corrective
really bad at
exercise,
mobility.
yeah.
But with basic strength, it's fine. But anytime you start getting a little bit more hybrid, a little bit more comprehensive, it starts to lose. But what I will say is, the advantage of our industry is that it's a personal industry, and the relationship that you have with your clients, with your members, you can't really replicate that, at least not yet. And I don't foresee that necessarily with AI. I think a lot of clients and members like knowing that they're working with a human who also struggles, a human who also has their own walk in life that can be difficult and challenging, but someone who cares about them and is there for them and is showing up and isn't just a robot. Mm-hmm. So I can't say how things are going to go with AI, but I can say that our industry, I think, is one of the most anti-fragile, and that like it can't break. And that as long as you're a good coach who really cares about the success of her or his members and clients, it's really hard to fail.
Yeah, that's a really important point, because it's really easy to fail if you don't have that. Either it's really if you're in training to be the best trainer, or you're in training to most people would never admit this, but to boost your own ego, and it's not just radically tripling down on the results that you can get for other people, and seeing satisfaction through that. I mean, one of the hardest things that I ever had to do in my career was to step away from a training schedule. In 2018, I was still training 12 camps a week or something like that, and working another 60 to 80 on the business every week, on top of focus meetings and 100. I love it. I'll do 100-hour weeks every week, all week long. And it was the hardest thing I had to do, was step away from that, because I feared that connection that fulfilled me so deeply was going to go away, and I had to displace that now to look through the lens of training trainers.
Yeah,
which is why I asked that question. Like, who you're working with mostly? Because my career has gone from working with like 100% members and a handful of trainers at like our company-owned gyms. We had 5 to 17 at one point, versus now just pouring all of that same energy into people that I'm trying to make better than me as a trainer.
Yes.
I walked into Ashburn, Virginia, outside of DC last week, dude. And there's this gal named Carrie Brophy that's on the mic. And I'm like, a tear comes to my eye, because she is crushing it. She is better than I am, than I could be. And it made me so proud, because it was like evidence that I achieved my goal.
I love that.
Master Splinter, the Ninja Turtles are now kicking Master.
That's
Splinter.
the sign of a great coach, though, is if your coach doesn't want to make you better than them, that's not a good coach. A good coach is a good mentor is someone who wants to make the student better than they ever were ever could be. That's the mark of a good coach. And if a coach is like, if they're so selfishly focused on more followers and more money, and way more than they are focused on the success of their clients and members, that coach is the one that's going to fail.
What do you think if you were to just like apply an arbitrary percentage to the percentage of, let's just call it, health and fitness professionals that think the way that we do versus thinking the way that, you know, someone else might think that's sitting here? I could name names, but I'm not in that game. The ego-driven, all about me, look at my abs, look at how hot I am, look at all my stuff, versus, hey, I just want you to be good. I want you to be healthy and happy for your family.
It's going to sound very pessimistic, but I'll clarify before I use this horrifyingly low number. Anybody now can call themselves a coach. All you have to do is go to your Instagram bio and say you're a personal trainer, you're a coach, and all of a sudden you're a personal trainer, coach. So, and a lot of these people will say that they're a coach when they haven't really taken the time to study, they haven't put in time and effort, they don't really care about it. They want to be Instagram famous. They want to have people love them and adore them and follow them, and they want to have brand deals, and they call themselves coaches. So let's assume all of those people are in this data pool that I'm going to say I think less than 3%.
Wow, I thought you were going to go with 10. I thought you were going to go 90-10.
No.
So you think 3%, which is probably about right. Yeah, I didn't think about it. It's like it's about that in leadership and business. Like, what leaders can you look at and say, like, and ask their employees, and their employees are going to be like, oh yeah, I'll follow them into hell and back, to the abyss.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
It's a tiny percentage.
They're the hardest person to work for, but I respect them the most.
That's why when you find someone on social media that you absolutely love, and it's very rare that you find an account that you're just like, wow, like I really, really resonate with this person. Like, this person it speaks to me on a very deep level. As soon as I say that, I guarantee some people, they can immediately think of maybe one or two people that they really deeply resonate with. It's not the vast majority of accounts that you see or even follow, because it's very rare. So it's a very small percentage, and that small percentage, those are the people that are going to be crushing it because they care so much about the people that are following them.
Yeah, definitely. I would say that when we come across your accounts, you have this genuine, like, you're funny and you have this humility, and it's kind of your in your face humor, but it's also has this undertone that can't be faked of like genuine care for people. And maybe that's just my trained eye being able to see that.
Yeah.
Because I work with so many people that are like us. But it's cool to see, like, in person, that the person you are there is the same person that you are here, and you didn't walk in here like trying to big league us or anything like that. I'm not gonna lie, dude. I've never met you before, so it's like I was like, oh, Jordan, like, I'm a super fan. I hope I get to still be a fan after today, and an even bigger fan after today because of our conversation.
Thank you. It's always disappointing when you meet someone for the first time and it's just not who they present themselves on social media.
Do you have any stories that I have one. Do you have any stories that are like, that stick out to you where you wanted to like meet somebody? I think there's a Drake line somewhere. He said like, shoot, I'm going to blank on the Drake line. I hate doing that. But he says, it's a Drake line about I used to like you until I met you, or something like that. Or I used to look up to you until I met you.
Yeah, it's the whole concept of never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
It can be really disappointing. I've had some in my, I'm not going to repeat him or call anybody out, but yeah, it can be really disappointing. And I will say again, we're giving Gary all the flowers that he deserves, but like, he said something to me early on when I was coaching him, that he was like, if you are pretending to be someone you're not, you're putting up a facade. And he was like, I always knew I was going to blow up, but like, I didn't want to pretend I was someone else, because when I'm out in public and people recognize me, like, then I have to constantly be pretending to be someone else. It's like, it's better to just be who you are, fully unapologetically say what you believe, stand by it. And that way you don't have to pretend. It's just, you are who you are.
Yeah. And so many of us we're afraid to do that.
They are. Yeah. It can be scary to put yourself out there fully. And but here's the thing, no matter what you do, whether you're being yourself or you're pretending, you're going to get hate at a certain point, no matter what. So I'd rather get hate for who I really am than hate for someone I'm pretending to be.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. And do you think that's a sign of success? Like, you hear that notion, like, you're only successful if you have people that disagree heavily with what you do and they watch you because they don't like you. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's overemphasized?
Listen, I think it's overemphasized, because no matter what, I think you're going to get hate no matter what. I just think the bigger you get in terms of your audience size, the more hate you will get. But I don't look at that as a sign of success. I just look at that as it just comes with the territory.
Right.
Especially nowadays on social media, which is very divisive. Like, man, some of the DMs I get are wild.
Yeah, I was going to ask you because you have such a broad reach. Like my reach is a little bit, it's different because I have a lot of accounts.
Yeah.
Right. And then like parent accounts.
Got it.
You know, so like if you look at all the Burn Bootcamp accounts and you add them up, it's different, but we're still seeing the same kind of stuff. Yours is just all to like one,
just me,
one inbox right to you to one person. So I can only imagine, bro, like the amount of like keyboard gangsters that are out there like, Jordan, don't do that or say this, like on that water video. How do you know, you're a human being too. And I always wonder this because people ask me this, like, you know, and you're much more, how would you say, famous than I'm like Burn famous. You're more like publicly famous.
I don't even,
or whatever, but people would say that, right? People would make that observation. And I'm always, because I deal with that in some sense too, I'm like, man, I'm a human. And I'm an emotionally strong person. When I hear something that somebody's trying to cut to the core of who I am, there was a period of time until I got enough to be able to build the defense mechanisms emotionally against that, where it hurt, man. And you want to do good until you realize that you can't please everybody. And then you come up with mechanisms to filter anybody that wants to hate you. You almost like flip that and use that as energy. Do you have like a mechanism in which do you ignore it? Like, what is your philosophy on how to stay the course when you make a video that people might not like, and then they say, hey, you were wrong about that, and then you got to go make out a correction video like you were saying earlier? And does that get to you?
It used to get to me. What I will say is anytime I'm getting negative feedback, my first response is, am I wrong? I think a lot of people immediately go to trying to defend their position. So if it's legitimate feedback of like, hey, you're incorrect, I might be wrong, let me double check this. And so I don't have any issues with being wrong. I don't have any issues with saying, hey, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. That's fine. The stuff that really would get to me is when people would mischaracterize who I am as a person and my character, or I would say lately in the last few years, the biggest reason, like the scary messages I get are about being Jewish, and just the comments around that and the threats around that. That's the more scary one. But the stuff around people not liking you because of your fitness opinions, like that means nothing. Like, I don't really care. And I will say there were times where it would be hurtful, or it would hurt my feelings and whatever. I would get upset, but I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be. This is just an analogy. I would imagine that the first time a doctor in an ER loses a patient, it's devastating. And maybe they need to take a couple days off. Maybe they needed some real time to collect themselves and get back to their baseline. But if that happened every time they lost a patient, they wouldn't be able to be a doctor. They wouldn't be able to be effective. They would actually be losing more patients and hurting more patients because they couldn't get back to doing what they needed to do. The first handful of times that I was getting hate, it was really difficult, and maybe I needed to take a couple days away. But now that time period in between when I can see the hate and then get back into it is seconds. I see it. I've just built up this whether you call it callousness or just exposure therapy to it, where I've been exposed to it so many times, it just doesn't have as much meaning anymore. And then also having kids really helps, because, I could see someone DM me something really angry, but my daughter's right next to me. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
My daughter's right here. I don't care.
Yeah. It's the same journey for me. Just the slow buildup of that armor. And when you're somebody who has integrity and your word means a lot to you. And like, if I say, like, to me, the one word is trust.
Yeah.
Like if somebody's like, I trusted you and you let me down, I'm like,
oh, that's devastating.
That's the one thing that it still makes my heart rate jump a little bit. Although I've been able to like bypass the emotional response and like use my executive function to be like, okay, same thing as you're like, my daughter's right here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, Jordan. Well, this, listen, we got about, let's go 10 minutes left. I want to dive into one more kind of general topic with you. And then we'll get you out of here. Sound good?
Dude, you're the boss. You tell me what to
Well, I want to keep. We could keep going for 4 hours, but I have an executive meeting downstairs. I probably got to get back to at some point here. But yeah, we're coming up on. This has been a great conversation. I can't believe we're already only almost 2 hours in. The state of the world today. Everywhere you look on YouTube, you have politics. You have religion. You mentioned you being Jewish, and so that kind of just inherently throws you right into the middle of that, whether you like it or not. And you've got all these narratives out there. And meanwhile, would you consider it a correct characterization to say that you are a fitness influencer, or would you like to be preferred to be called something else?
I just am a personal trainer.
A personal trainer. Okay. So you're an influential personal trainer. And our bread and butter isn't a lot of that stuff, right? But you're somebody who has been entrusted to have an opinion.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, and I'm wondering this for you because I know it's true for me, people come to me and say, oh, you need to talk about that, or you need to talk about this.
I hate when people do that.
You need to talk about this. And it's like, but I don't know about, I don't have a strong opinion on that. Just because I'm online and saying stuff doesn't mean that I should be a politician or have an opinion on the FDA or have an opinion on
the war in Gaza.
The war in Gaza,
yep.
And mostly it comes in my world. It comes like we have a master calendar for the brand, and as a franchise, all 450 gyms, we're following kind of the same rhythm.
Yep.
And when it's national holidays, well, it's like all of the holidays, right, for every ethnicity, and we mirror the diversity of America. If I think the numbers are like 13% population is African American, some high 60% is Caucasian, another 10 or 12% is Hispanic, another few percent is Asian. And we mirror that pretty much as an organization, right? So when I get the requests to say, hey, you should be talking about Kwanzaa, or why are you guys talking about Christmas? It's because it's Jesus' birthday, and I love Christmas, and it's the most wonderful time of the year. What do you mean? What am I talking about? Inevitably, Christmas is one example for me. Your background is one example for you. You're just thrown into it because of that.
Yeah.
And now you're a person of influence. You have to have an opinion, Jordan. If you don't have an opinion, that's also opinion. That's also an opinion. What do you say to that? Do you
off?
I figured you were going to
off.
I figured you were going to say that.
Dude, I will go off on this topic.
All right, let's go.
It is one of the most obnoxious, pretentious, presumptuous things, because what they're picking and choosing what you're supposed to have an opinion on. We could look at any number of horrible things going on in the world, and anytime someone says, well, what's your opinion on this? Like, why aren't you talking about this? I'm like, why aren't you talking about what's going on in Sudan? Why aren't you talking about the Uyghurs in China? Why aren't you talking about what's going on in Ethiopia? Why aren't you talking about what's going on in Afghanistan? Why aren't you talking about the starving people here in the United States? Why aren't you talking about child trafficking? There are countless horrible atrocities going on at any one point in time. You were just picking and choosing whichever one you want to appear virtuous for, and then imposing it on me. Listen, I have family in Israel. I'm Jewish. I also have many Palestinian, very close friends who are Palestinian as well. That is a specific conflict that is near and dear to my heart, that I've always said if I wasn't a personal trainer, I'd be a history professor. I love history. I've studied this particular conflict my whole life, but I love history. I love learning about it. So I talk about this stuff pretty frequently. Like when Russia invaded Ukraine, I was talking about it, just the history of a little bit. Like I talk about it because I enjoy learning about it, and I'm relatively more informed than I would say the average individual. But if you aren't aware of the nuances of, by the way, like Israel-Palestine being legitimately the most complex geopolitical situation in the war, it's in the world. If you are not informed on it, don't make a stance on it. You are not obligated under any circumstance to say, I support this side, I support that side, which, by the way, if you talk to the people who are the most educated on it, they support both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I want safety and peace and security for all Palestinians and all Israelis. Anyway, again, it's the nuance, right? The people who are the least educated on it, they pick a team and they wear their jersey. Whereas the reality is, when you're very educated on it, or it's actually, I see the same thing. Like, you have the people who are the most educated and the people who are the least educated. They just want peace. They want good for both sides. Whereas when you're in the middle and you've been fed a lot of propaganda and you've been made it out to be that one side's evil and one side's not, that's when you pick that team. It's that Dunning-Kruger effect. As soon as like you learn a little bit, you think you know everything about it. I don't care what the topic is. Number one, you are not required to talk about anything that you don't want to talk about. It doesn't mean you're complicit. It means that you're making
Or don't care.
or don't care.
Yeah.
They don't know what you're doing off Instagram. They don't know what you're supporting or not supporting. One of the things is when people ask me about Israel and Palestine and all of that, they'll come at me for it, and I'll always ask, how much have you donated to help save innocent Palestinians? And they never reply. They never, and I'll say like, can you send me a receipt? And I'll send them. I'll show them like, this is how much I've donated to this group. This is how much I've donated to this group. This is who I've hosted on my podcast to discuss this side and this side. They're all armchair experts who aren't doing anything. They're just trying to impose whatever they believe on you, and they're trying to make themselves appear more virtuous by getting you to do it when they've done literally nothing to help that actual community whatsoever. So for me, it's very important that you should not feel pressured at all to post about anything that you either don't want to post about and or that you are not educated on. Because if you're posting something you're not educated on, then you very well might be contributing to misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a great take on it. You're telling me what I'm hearing because I'm asking for advice. We're currently dealing with that more and more because there's now this, how'd you say it? There's like this societal expectation that companies take a stance on everything.
Yes.
And I'm like, but my company's stance is inspiring, empowering, and transforming our community through community-based fitness. What do you mean? What do I need to have a stance outside of that for?
You don't.
That's what I want to be known. That's what we're good at. Like, I care about this other stuff, but I don't know a lot about it enough to speak on it.
Yeah.
You know?
You don't have to. It's a very loud minority. It's, I would say, listen to your gut and don't do it. Your intuition knows what's right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Don't speak about something just because someone's trying to pressure you into it. Don't succumb to the bullies. Do what you know is right. If you are uniquely passionate about a certain topic, then absolutely talk about it. If you're passionate about it, you're educated on it. If you want, I'm more than happy to give you books if you're interested in this topic to read, which, by the way, most of these people who are talking about it have never read a book. They're just TikTok educated.
Yeah.
But do not give in to the bullies. Don't. Stick to what you know is right. Don't feel like you have to talk about anything that you don't want to or are not educated on. It's a societal pressure that appears much bigger than it actually is just because a very small number of very loud and vocal people are pushing it. But I promise you, I mean, as your success shows, you guys are killing it because you're doing a really good job with what you're doing. So don't give in to the small number of people who are trying to bully you into doing whatever it is they deem is right.
Yeah, and it's weird because I'm actually not interested in that stuff at all. But it sounds, but it sounds.
I love the honesty.
But it sounds like I should be, because if you don't care about it at all, but I don't mean it that way.
How much can you devote your time to, man?
From a true human perspective, I care immensely about the health and happiness of human beings.
Yes.
And these conflicts that are happening all over the world. But it doesn't interest me to know to go in so deep that learn about it. So then what am I going to do about it? I don't know. So
it's 3,500 years of history.
Right.
Like this, it's a full-time job. I've studied this since I was a kid.
Right.
And it's like that. I read about it all the time. I'm reading 2 books on it currently right now. But then it's not even just the history books, because now I'm reading books written by leaders of various countries from like 1937, and like you're reading from the mouths of these people. You're not just reading the history books anymore. Now you're reading these people's books. So if you really want to get a really solid understanding of it, you're reading the documents, you're reading the Balfour Declaration, you're reading like the historical documents of the day. It's like you're not just reading history books anymore, because history books can be manipulated too.
Right.
So you have to actually read what was presented at that time. This is a full-time job, dude. You are the owner of one of the most successful fitness businesses in the world, and you have a family. It's like, I've been interested in this since I was a kid, but also like, I don't know endless amounts about the Uyghurs in China, who, by the way, is a legitimate genocide going on against them. I don't know endless amounts about the genocide in Darfur in Sudan. Like, I don't know endless. There's only so much I can dedicate to. So if you're passionate about it and if you're educated on it and you feel called to post about it, absolutely do it. And if someone tells you what you are required to post about, tell them no.
Politely.
Just no.
Or no, not at all.
Just say fuck off.
Straightforward. I'll just ignore. How about that? We'll let Jordan do that. I'll just stand behind Jordan and be like, yeah, what he said. I'll be and be my bodyguard. But it's a real question, right? Because I care about our people and what they care about also matters to me. But what I am truly interested in is like, I'm truly interested in the history of psychology.
Yeah.
I'm interested in marketing and media. I'm interested in cinematic and directing and telling stories, and that's the type of stuff. Like,
I love that.
I'm a pure marketing person.
Yeah.
Right. Marketing / fitness. Like if you took marketing and fitness and married it and had a baby, it's weird to say, but it's kind of like if you and Gary Vee had a baby. It's kind of like Devan. It's like one side fitness, one side. I'm serious. Like I like you guys are very how'd you say impactful in my life. So thank you, buddy, for being here. And I think that's pretty good. Let's do this. Let's give you the mic for a moment, as if you don't already have it. And I think this is camera right here. This is Jordan's camera. That camera is Burn Nation's eyes right there. And I'm gonna give you an opportunity to speak to Burn Nation. We have 150,000 members. We have the average member comes about 3.8 times per week out of our 6 sessions. We're so happy. We have focused meetings that not a lot of people take advantage of. Maybe like 20%, 30% of our organization takes advantage of them. And so I wanted to give them an opportunity to hear from one of the best to do it directly from heart to heart. If you're to say, just give some inspiration and some motivation to somebody out there who is in a state of demotivation right now, what would you look at them? What would you say to them to help them get up and get moving and keep moving?
Listen, I would say life can be very challenging for every single one of us, and we're all fighting demons that other people don't know anything about. But when in doubt, number one, I would say treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. If you're struggling, if you're feeling like a failure, I would ask yourself to try and flip the conversation and have the conversation you're having in your head. Imagine your best friend is saying like, hey, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. What would you respond to them? What would you tell them to do? Would you tell them to continue to hate on themselves and shame themselves and guilt themselves, or would you encourage them to seek out the community, which I think this is the best place. You have Burn Bootcamp, you have an amazing community, you have an incredible, not just instructors and owners and CEOs and all of that, but you've got an amazing community of other members who are there with you. Lean into them. It's okay to be carried when you need to be carried, and then on the other end, when you're feeling stronger and better, being able to help carry other people who were once where you were. So you have an amazing community around you. Lean into them. Try and treat yourself like you would treat your best friend, and understand that there's no such thing as like something that's too small. Whether it's a 5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk, eating a little bit more protein, having some fiber, getting to bed, no action is too small to improve your health, and it's all worth it. So treat yourself better, treat yourself like you're worth it, because you are, and lean into the amazing community that's built right here for you.
Jordan Syatt, everybody. Thanks, Jay. We appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. If you guys want to check out his Instagram, you're not already part of his 1.1 million followers, Syatt Fitness. And anything else that you want them to know?
No,
all right.
You have everything you need with Burn.
Yep. Syatt Fitness is where it's at. It's a great account to follow. If you want to connect with him there, you can do so. Thanks, Burn Nation. We're going to end things like we always do. You want to join us for 2 claps on 2? I'm going to say 2 claps on 2, and then you hit it. All right?
Let's do it.
2 claps on 2, 1, 2. See you guys. Take care.